What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Cam ATL. Shout out to the DFS squad. Shout out to everybody watching this video right now. Drop a like down below because I already know you're gonna love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously. Subscribe to the channel down below. Comment anything down in the comment section and enter your name into the $50 giveaway that I do every single week on this channel. I want to say congratulations to Jason Bocanegra. I think that's how you say his name. I'm probably supposed to roll my R, but I'm not even going to embarrass myself and attempt to roll the R. So Jason Bocanegra, congratulations to you. You are the $50 winner from last week. Thank you guys to everybody who commented down below. All your questions that I was able to look at. You guys talking amongst yourselves. It was awesome. Great videos last week. First look lineup, as always. You guys know we come in here. This is the first look lineup for week 3 NFL. We build a lineup together with our first look thoughts on the slate. We talk over our first thoughts real quick, build a lineup together, and then later on in the week, closer to Sunday, I will do a final look video, which I normally drop on Friday morning. That will be covering more in depth, and we'll talk about way more players and kind of get injury updates and stuff like that as we get deeper on into the week. But this video right here is going to just be filling a lineup together. We're going to fill the entire thing together, talk about why I like these players, and go from there. Just kind of get our first gut look at the slate. Now, starting off at quarterback, Patrick Mahomes against Baltimore. These dudes are expensive, but both dudes, Lamar Jackson and Mahomes, have been balling the hell out. But like I said, this is a first look lineup. I'm not going to get into all of these guys. I'm going to talk about guys that I have some interest in. Dak Prescott at home in Dallas going against Miami. Of course, it's 6-5. You keep thinking these teams are going to blow Miami out and just stop throwing the ball, but both the quarterbacks that have faced Miami so far have done very, very well. There's no reason to think that Dak's not going to get 25, right around 25 in this game. The main guys that I'm interested in, though, let's go down here. Josh Allen at 5'9" is fine against Cincinnati. I like him at home. He's got a good rushing floor. We know what we get from Josh Allen. I like Kyler Murray for the same reason. He hasn't really shown off that speed yet, but he will soon enough once he gets more comfortable. Against Carolina is not an ideal matchup. Quarterbacks haven't done that well versus Carolina so far this year. But Kyler Murray is a good young quarterback. We know he's got the speed and he can get it on the ground. Once he starts feeling comfortable and starts doing that, he's been definitely slinging it, though. He's been slinging it over 300. Has he gotten like over 350 yards in his first 2 games? Something like that. Let me see. Let me refresh my memory. 350 yards in his last game and then 308 in the first game. He's been slinging it. He's just got to get that rushing ability on display, which we know he's got. All right, but the main guy that I'm looking at here on this is Jameis Winston. Now, I know everybody's like, oh my God, not Jameis Winston. He's been garbage. I'm with you guys, man. I totally, look, I'm with you, okay? But this is against a Giants team that is a horrible defense. Gave up 36 to Dak Prescott week 1. Gave up over 22 to Josh Allen week 2. Jameis Winston is at home in Tampa Bay. Vegas has them up there in totals for the weekend. All right, going against this Giants defense that has been atrocious. Their defense is struggling big time, okay? And I do believe that this will be the game that him and Mike Evans link up often and finally blow up and do what a lot of people saw many times last season where they have just huge fantasy games. Jameis isn't a great real-life quarterback, let's be real. But when it comes to fantasy, he has some big games from time to time. And the first 2 weeks of the season have been low. Jameis is the kind of guy to be like, you know what? He's the kind of guy to come out and just show out after a first few games down. I believe he's going to air the ball out a ton here in this matchup against the Giants. This defense is horrible. He should be able to do what he wants to do. So, yeah, Jameis Winston paired up with Mike Evans is a very good option, and that is especially with Jameis being 5'4", because the first few weeks of the season have been down for him. I'm all over that, man. I mean, the first week of the season, he was 6'6". He's $1,200 less than he was in the first game of the season. And this matchup against the Giants is much better than the matchup against San Francisco was. Okay? So it's DFS, guys. You got to write it off. And I know we have so many injuries. Injuries are what held the squad back. GreenlightDFS.com, by the way. Join for week 3. Week 2 was a downish week for DK. FanDuel smashed. GPP on DK smashed. But DK Fave struggled. We had some injuries that fucked us. as everybody knows, there was a ton of injuries at quarterback this last week. So we're going to have guys like, Teddy Bridgewater playing quarterback this week. We're going to have those super cheap guys, the guy taking over for Pittsburgh, a bunch of cheap quarterbacks, but I don't think any of them are very usable on the slate. Maybe the Pittsburgh quarterback because he looked okay when he came in. But other than that, Jameis Winston at 5'4", paired up, I'm going to go ahead and do it now, paired up with my boy, Mike Evans at 6'6". We know the type of chemistry these two have. They haven't been able to get it going yet this season. Mike Evans started the year off with a stomach bug, like a flu. So he was dealing with sickness come the start of the season. Back at home in Tampa Bay, I think they're going to show out for their home squad. I think they're going to have an amazing game here against the Giants. And both of these guys are known to have huge days from time to time. And I'm predicting that this is one of them. All right. Next up, at running back, Ezekiel Elliott is my favorite running back, and it's not very close. Him and Christian McCaffrey are right there, but Zeke at 8'9", at home in Dallas, going against a Miami team that I can see Dallas getting up big and running a ton with Zeke, and I expect them to also get up big by Zeke. Okay, Zeke is going to have a monstrous game here in this one. It was great to see Zeke finally get some more carries, back up to 23 carries in the run game last week against Washington. Love him here against Miami. I mean, no surprise. Miami is a horrible defense. They're a bad offense. Their team in general is crumbling. They just got rid of Minka. I forget his name, but Minka. They just got rid of one of their cornerbacks. So Zeke is just going to absolutely destroy this team. Dallas is the highest projected total on the slate. Absolutely love Zeke here going against Miami, and he is the main guy that I think is going to do a shit ton of damage against this Miami defensive line. Next up, another guy that I absolutely love that has been showing out this year, Dalvin Cook at 7'8", going against Oakland. Oakland, the first few weeks of the season, have done fairly well, holding Patrick Lindsey to 4.5 and Williams to 8.6. But look at who I just mentioned, Lindsey and Williams, okay? This is Dalvin Cook, okay? A new and improved Dalvin Cook, who has gone over 100 yards the first two games of the season, over 20 carries. We know Minnesota loves to run the ball. They're big favorites here against Oakland, which, by the way, I do love their defense. I'll talk about them a little later. But Dalvin Cook has been absolutely going crazy. He's 7'8". I get the prices getting up there, but still, this dude has been absolutely legit. Ran for over 154 yards last week. Absolutely love Dalvin Cook against Oakland here. He is a great play. Next up, another guy I love. This dude's been absolutely balling and getting peppered with targets. Emmanuel Sanders got 13 targets last week against Chicago. Okay? Week 1, 19 Draftkings points. Week 2, 28 Draftkings points. I mean, Flacco has been just aiming at Emmanuel Sanders and letting it loose. He's been getting a ton of targets. Denver is our 8-point underdogs against Green Bay. Denver's going to have to throw a bunch. Expect Emmanuel Sanders to get a ton of targets once again. Probably end up in the end zone once again. And expect him to hit that 100-yard bonus mark that he hasn't hit so far this year with 86 yards week 1, 98 yards week 2. I think he gets it here. And think about it. I mean, he just got 13 targets, 11 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown against Chicago. A very good defense. He's going against Green Bay now, who gave up over 20 DraftKings points to Allen Robinson week 1 and 13 at Thielen. We would have hoped for more than that, but we know Minnesota, they have a lot of weapons, no need for it. Denver does not have a lot of weapons, so expect them to lean on Emmanuel Sanders. And at 4.8, I love his target share at 4.8 going against Green Bay in a game where they will have to play catch-up. Last receiver that I love a lot, and this is a guy we'll have to keep an eye on, but Nelson Aguilar at 3.6 is ridiculous, especially if Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey miss this game again, okay? I'm seeing reports that Alshon Jeffrey is unlikely to play, okay? That's what I'm seeing as of right now. He is in a big risk of missing this game. Obviously, we want to keep an eye on it. Deshaun Jackson, we're not sure. I mean, we know how those injuries with Deshaun Jackson are. He just gets hurt a ton. He's never really dependable for an entire season. You know he's going to miss games. It just is what it is with Deshaun Jackson. Nelson Aguilar is going to benefit immensely here if either one of those guys miss. Okay, so I love Nelson Aguilar at 3.6 against Detroit in a great passing matchup for Aguilar as well. Absolutely love him here in this one at 3.6. That is ridiculous. I love Nelson Aguilar. All right. Now, at tight end, the guy that I'm really leaning towards here is Greg Olson. Last year, Arizona was bottom in the league against tight ends, okay? And that's a great situation for Greg Olson because outside of Christian McCaffrey, Olson is Cam Newton's go-to guy. And another thing, Cam Newton is not running at all. He's got something wrong with his foot, and he is not running out of the pocket. He is throwing, okay? And that is good news for Greg Olson, one of his favorite targets in this offense. When McCaffrey was like 2 years old in Pampers. Well, are you in Pampers at 2 years old? Either way, he was in diapers when Greg Olson was out here catching passes from Cam Newton. Okay, I'm exaggerating. But Greg Olson is one of Cam Newton's favorite targets. We all know that. Going against an Arizona team that struggles versus tight ends, this game is expected to stay close. Fire up Greg Olson. Dude's been balling. 9 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2, getting targets very well. And at 3-7, I just love the matchup against Arizona. Now, let's go ahead and do defense, and then I'm going to talk about my very nice play at the flex position that I love at his price this week. At defense, I'm going with the Vikings to pair up with Dalvin Cook going against Oakland. Now, week 1, Oakland showed some signs of just coming out, and they're like, you know what, Antonio Brown? Fuck you, Antonio. We're going to come out here and get this W by any means necessary. And they hyped us up, making us think that they're just legit. You know what I mean? And then they go out and get embarrassed, start off the game very well against Kansas City, and then just get embarrassed by Patrick Mahomes in the second half. It is Patrick Mahomes, so I'm not going to put too much on Oakland. But at the same time, this team has some young talent, yes. Okay? But going against a super potent Vikings defense at home in Minnesota. Minnesota is only 3-3. This is a defense that was absolutely fire last year. They're a big-time defense, especially at home in Minnesota. I'm expecting big things here against Oakland. Derek Carr is a decent quarterback, but he does tend to turn the ball over a ton. Okay? He does tend to turn the ball over a ton. So I'm expecting some turnovers, maybe a pick 6 by this Vikings D. Love Vikings at 3-3. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys are probably the best defense by far on this entire slate. Going against Miami, I mean, if you have the money left over, you're not going to bust with the Dallas defense, but I normally do not recommend paying up for defense like that. That's a little too much. I mean, almost $5K for Dallas D. That's a little too much. Now, at the flex position, fits perfectly. I was battling between whether I wanted to go Chris Carson or Marlon Mack here. I always go running backs at flex just because I love running backs at flex, okay? I'm not going to spend too much of your time explaining that to you, but most of the time, I go running backs at flex. Actually, all the time, I go running backs at flex, okay? Absolutely love Chris Carson, Marlon Mack. I love Marlon Mack the most, okay? But I'm going to talk a little bit here. Chris Carson, the thing that bothers me with Chris Carson came out week 1, was getting targets in the pass game, tons of touches, looked absolutely amazing, man. And I was like, man, I was super hype about the dude, super excited for him. And then week 2, he comes out and fumbles like a bunch of times. He's had huge fumble issues. Last game when he started fumbling again, they put in Rashad Penny, who got 10 carries and took away a big chunk of the carries from Chris Carson. That bothers me. Okay, because obviously the Seattle team is starting to get annoyed by the fumbles for Carson, giving Penny more shares of the carries now, and that is not good for Carson. So I am not going to be on Carson, but there's a few guys that you can go right here in this range that I really, really love, and that's Marlon Mack is my favorite one going against this Atlanta defense. Marlon Mack has gotten over 20 carries week 1 and over 20 carries week 2. 25 carries week 1 and exactly 20 carries week 2. All right? Do not forget about week 1, he ran for 174 rushing yards. And then he went against a Tennessee defense that is stout this year, by the way. He only got 51 rushing yards, which was a huge letdown. But here against this Atlanta team, and I hate to say it, but here against the Atlanta team in what should be a close matchup at home in Indianapolis, I absolutely love him going against Atlanta, who gave up over 29 Draftkings points to Dalvin Cook week 1. Expect a big game out of Marlon Mack. He's going to get a ton of touches, and I love that floor that you get with him getting that many touches in this offense. So he's going to get a ton of touches here, and it is a great matchup against Atlanta in this one. So Marlon Mack or Mark Ingram against KC is solid as well. but it scares me a little bit because you would think both these teams are just going to be firing it down the field each time they get it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes does have a tough contest here against Baltimore this week, but Mahomes has proven time and time again that it doesn't matter what defense he's going against. He's matchup proof by this point, especially if you play season long and you're not playing Mahomes every week. I don't give a shit if he's playing the best defensive team of all time. Okay? He is going to smash them. You play him every single week in season long. Don't be stupid and play matchup when you have Patrick Mahomes. But that game is kind of hard to read at this moment with the first look, at least. I'll get more into it throughout the week, and we'll talk a little bit more about it and which guys we like in this game, because obviously there are some Baltimore guys. I like Hollywood Brown on the Baltimore side, receiver for them. I do like the quarterback as well for them, Jackson. So, but we'll get into it a little more. But this is the first look at, for right now, Jameis Winston, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Mike Evans, and Jameis Winston. I'm calling it right now. These two are going to pair up and have a big game this weekend. Could be a double touchdown from Mike Evans in this one. I'm calling it now. Janoris Jenkins, who's going to be covering Mike Evans, is too small. Okay? Point blank, period. Janoris Jenkins' midget ass is too small. No offense to all you Giants fans. Janoris Jenkins is an okay cornerback, but he's a midget. He's too small, okay? Period. Evans is going to roast him, all right? Emmanuel Sanders, Nelson Aguilar, as long as the injuries stay how they're looking, it could be, okay? We will update that later. Greg Olson, Marlon Mack, and Vikings D. Let me know down in the comment section who you like for week 3. Greenlightdfs.com. Join the squad, man. Let's get it. Bounce back week 3 after the horrible injuries that held us back week 2. It is what it is, man. We can't do anything about that in DFS. Let's get right back to this money, man. Thank you guys for watching me as always. Greenlightdfs.com. Drop a like, subscribe, all that cool shit.